Good evening, everybody. Thanks for sticking around. I know our assistant coaches or coordinators came in or both and spoke about everybody beside Terrell, who we addressed on the first night of the draft. But just to add a few comments, then we'll open it up to some questions. James Washington, our second-round pick. Excited to get James, a very mature senior wide receiver who dedicated himself to going back to school, finishing his degree and putting up another big season. We like James a lot. He's not the biggest, he's probably not the fastest, but he's as good a deep receiver as played college football this year. I believe it was 38 career touchdowns. And, we think James can play outside, and we also think he can play inside. And he may have a chance to even work as a return guy, which he did some at the Senior Bowl. Of course, he didn't do it at Oklahoma State because they had some others to handle those duties. We took Mason Rudolph in the third round. The other day when we talked in our pre-draft press conference, we talked about adding another quarterback into the mix at some point. It got to a point where it was a very easy decision for us to add such a quality quarterback to our team. This draft had a really good, unique quarterback class that we haven't had that much depth at the top of this position or at the top of the draft at that position in a long time. And Mason was certainly a part of that group, in our opinion. And when he was available to us at that point in the third round, it was a very easy decision for us to choose him. Chooks from Western Michigan, Chukwuma Okorafor, I believe is how we pronounce it for sure. But Chooks is he's a very, very talented tackle. Coach and I were just talking before. We've been seeing a lot of these kids really for the last 2 years. And Chooks was a kid last year when we went into Western Michigan to look at Corey Davis and Moten, their right tackle. Chooks kind of stood out on film. And we followed up and continued to scout him throughout this season. He's got a very good upside, probably the most unique upside of this whole group. And he's got left tackle abilities. I think we get him with a guy like Coach Munchak. You think about where Alejandro was when he came in, a free agent practice squad tackle that turned into a Pro Bowl. You had Chris Hubbard, who came in as a free agent, worked with Coach Munchak, and left this season as a priority free agent for another squad. So real excited to see how much Chooks can improve under Coach Munchak's tutelage. Marcus Allen was kind of like Mason. We had taken Terrell up at obviously in the first round. We liked Marcus Allen a lot. The safety group was a nice group, but when Marcus was still available in the fifth round, we felt that we really liked his physicality. Marcus is a guy that knocks people backwards when he hits them, and he does it very often. So to add a kid like him at the fifth round, even though we had taken one in the first, it was a pretty easy pick because he was clearly the highest rated guy we had left at that point. Jaylen Samuels. Jaylen is a little bit of a do everything kind of running back. I believe he caught 76 balls this year. He was more productive as a receiver than he was as a runner because they had another little runner. I shouldn't say little. They had another runner, Hines, that was drafted previous to Jaylen, and they both played really multiple roles within their scheme. And Jaylen lined up as a fullback, a running back, an H-back, a slot, a tight end. And at the Senior Bowl, he really got to concentrate on working as a runner. And he did a nice job in the Senior Bowl practices and in the game. So his versatility was very attractive at that point. And then Joshua Fraser, Joshua played in a rotation down at Alabama, and Alabama's defensive line, Hand had gotten drafted, and then Deron Payne got drafted as well. And they have some underclassmen that are very good players. And Joshua, played in a rotation and did a nice job when he played. And, of course, he worked with Coach Dunbar down there, so we have an extra familiarity. But as a defensive lineman, he can come in and he can compete. and push the people we have. So at this point, we're at 77. I think we started the process at 70 players. We added 7 draft picks. Of course, we're in the process of signing our college free agents. We'll come out with 13, 16 or so if we end up liking some of these available college free agents more than maybe some of the kids that are already on the squad. We may exchange some folks. So that's where we are. Excited. I think we've added some good depth, some good competition. If you look at it, you know, some people may question the immediacy of these kids being able to help us, but as I said, our job is to win a championship in 2018. But the other part of our job is to make sure that this organization can compete year in and year out, and hopefully these young men will help us do that. Questions?
Kev, do you ever recall drafting somebody, a quarterback receiving duo from the same school in the same year? And how much does that help, say, Mason having one of his own guys with his?
Yeah. Without really doing a bunch of research, I really can't. In my own experience, I'd have to look through it. I think they mentioned that there was 8 combinations that have been drafted previously. But really, one had nothing to do with the other than us being at their pro day, and they had a heck of a pro day. And, of course, when you saw one play, you saw the other play. So the familiarity was there when you saw Oklahoma State play. But really, James's drafting and Mason's drafting, they would have happened independent of each other had they appeared when they did their availability for us. So it's good that they can come in together. It always helps to have a familiar face, especially as successful a pair as those two have been. But right now they're Steelers, and they're brand new Steelers, and they're going to have to reprove themselves individually. And who knows how many times they'll actually work together. So it's a new beginning for both of them, but I'm sure the familiarity won't hurt.
Kevin, Mason?
Did we have? I'll say this: he was with the group of the top quarterbacks. That was a really good position. Again, that's very unique to the draft. It usually doesn't come through a nice group like that, and to be able to get one of those guys in our situation, as we mentioned before, and it's nothing against Landry or Josh Dobbs. It's just this kid was available at a very easy selection point, and that's a critical position. And where he fits, how quick he fits, coach can address that. We just know it's nice to have good options at a critical position.
Kevin, people will say you guys didn't address the inside linebacker position. Are you happy with what you have there?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we go into it wanting to add to every position that we can. In the off season, when we signed John Bostic, John started 14 games and was highly productive last season. We're excited about him being with us. Tyler Medikevich, he got hurt in the same quarter that Ryan did. Had he not gotten injured, we may have had a whole different discussion going on because, Tyler is a very highly productive special teams guy that really hasn't gotten to play. So between John and Tyler, we don't know what we have in those two, quite honestly, because John's new to us, and Tyler will be, in the rotation and competition as well. So, hey, look, if there's positions that are available to us when we're picking, and they fit and they're at the right spot, great. If they're not, we're not going to reach. We're not going to reach. And, Coach was awesome throughout this process in saying, no, let's respect the board and let's look at who's the best players available, and then we'll adjust from there.
Mike, along those lines, you added 3 safeties, including free agency. Can they help pick up that maybe inside linebacker slack a bit?
I think they can help our football team in a number of ways, and it's probably, something that's just indicative of the safety position in today's NFL. Not only are they capable safeties, but in sub-package defense, when you start putting DBs down in the box, several of these guys have had that in their past, and we're excited about looking at that as a potential component of our play. And also, special teams, are a significant element of special teams play in the National Football League. And so to be able to add some guys that not only play the safety position, but are physical tacklers that can help us as potential second-level defenders and sub-package defenses, or in terms of covering kicks, I think it's been a good weekend for us from that perspective.
Mike, along those lines, is the nomenclature of what's an inside linebacker versus what's a safety, is that out the window now?
It's just whether you're talking about base or sub. There's a significant difference between a base linebacker and a base safety. But when you start getting into sub package and situational football, those lines bleed together in terms of the positions that those guys play. And it's not only something that's revealed through our play, but it's revealed through everyone's play. I just mentioned the other day when we were talking about Edmonds, and when you watch Virginia Tech tape within Bud Foster's scheme, you saw him do a lot of things. You saw him play free, you saw him play strong, you saw him play sub-package linebacker. And I just really think that's an indication of where football is these days.
Mike, what differences did you see and similarities between Terrell Edmonds and Kasano?
Both very physical tacklers, and at the safety position, that has to be something that you covet. Both physical tacklers. Saw more versatility on Edmonds' tape, but really it was a function of what he was asked to do within their scheme. Excited about both men, like both men, obviously like Edmonds at a different level, but to what Kevin's said, to have Allen available at the time which he was available, it was an easy decision for us. Just because we respect the player that he is, position discussions aside.
Kevin, did you consider Mason in that number 60 spot?
What spot was
The
that?
second round pick?
It looked like he was going to be available. At that point, of course, he was. But then, we had James available to us as well. And so to be able to get the receiver, we took the precedent of taking the receiver because the receiver can help now. And then when it gets past that point of helping now and then looking at, again, down the road, it was too easy. It was an easy decision to take Mason Rudolph where we did. But at that point, yes, we did consider it, but the receiver was he was more the present, whereas Mason is really more for the future.
Mike, how do you see?
Who's the highest rated player in respect to where you were drafting at the time? Which guy has the most value in that regard? If you
For the whole board?
all your 7 picks. No, which guy had like the tackle? You had him ranked as a 13th guy, and you got him 70th. Which guy had the biggest disparity?
Oh, boy, I couldn't recall that, Jim. No, No, because when you're doing that, of course, you're referencing the whole board. Chukwuma was, visibly a highly regarded player at a position where we wanted to add competition. And, when I'm saying he was above some other folks, there might have been somebody equal to or close, but those positions we weren't really considering at that point. So it wasn't like he was 3 rounds above somebody. I mean, that may be a difference of, when you get into the points, a hundredth of a point or 5/100ths of a point or maybe a half a round. But it was just like, wait a minute, this kid is, potentially a left tackle, right tackle combination, and he's really new to football. So it was like he was an easy decision when he was. Really, none of these kids were a hard discussion. Where they were available to us, sometimes we were considering them early. Sometimes we were like, maybe we better take this kid because he might not make it or he might not sign as a free agent. So when we take them, they're clearly better than the competition at other positions. The disparity in the grades, it varies each pick.
Mike, how do you see Samuels fitting in your offense, and what did he do at NC State that
I think that's to be determined, and I don't say that in a negative sense. Boy, he was a versatile guy for them. Kevin spoke to some of it, 70-plus receptions this year, over 200 catches on his career. I think it's worth noting also that I think that he had 12 touchdowns rushing this year. Some of it as a wildcat runner and so forth. So we're excited about him and his skill set and maybe the matchup issues that that he could create. He'll be given an opportunity to be a running back, but obviously he's a running back who excels and has excelled in the passing game, whether it's out of the backfield aligned or out of the backfield in terms of when the ball snaps. So we're excited about him displaying those skills in others. I'm also interested in what type of versatility he can display in the team's game. I would imagine that a guy that has done as much for his college football team as he did is capable of showing a wide variety of skills in that area as well.
Like Ben has said both that he is going to review continuing his career 1 year at a time and that he wants to play for a few more years. How do you personally reconcile that as playing for your team?
He's on our team in 2018, and we're excited about it. I don't overanalyze it.
What options does James Washington give your offense?
You know, he's a very, very accomplished receiver. I really had a very similar feel about him as I had about Juju a year ago. His resume speaks for itself. He's got a well-rounded game. He's not a specialist in that he only excels in one aspect of receiver play. He's good short, he's good long, he's good combat catch guy. He's a hand catcher. He's got physicality to his game, whether he has the ball or not. There's a lot of things that's attractive about him. A guy with that type of skill set can help us in a variety of ways, whether we're throwing him the ball or not. And I felt similarly about Juju a year ago.
Kevin, one area we weren't able to address today, which oftentimes you do in the draft, is outside pass rusher, outside linebacker. It's not a great class in that regard, and we maybe try to throw some numbers at that in rookie free agency or veteran free agency.
Yeah, I mean, again, would love to be able to draft 20 guys, and we can't. We get 7. And when we look at the outside linebacker, Keon Adams was a kid that we took last year in the 7th round, had a real good early start in the training camp, and we were excited about where he was going to be able to go. But unfortunately, had a shoulder injury that required surgery, and he didn't get to play. But you always had him in the bank, and we know that, he's really another 7th round pick in our eyes for this season. So we'll see where he goes. Of course, we got the two starters. Anthony Chickillo, we think, took a step last year, and then we'll see where Keon goes. And we're going to add some free agent type people into it and see where it goes. But really, we consider Keon like a 7th round pick this year.
Kevin, is it a coincidence that the draft breaks where you're addressing 19 and 20 rather than 18 more? Does that happen a lot, or is it just how it breaks it sometimes?
Yeah, I think, we go into this and we talk about it, and in some positions you're helping right now. We think James Washington, and I'm not making a decision for the coach, but he's probably going to help more immediately, obviously, than Mason Rudolph will. So, yes, he'll help more in 18. But you have to protect the future as well, because not all of these guys will play, especially, we got a pretty good team, so to add some young folks into it, this roster will change. On average, NFL teams change 16 to 20 players per year. So we don't know what will be available, who will be healthy, who will retire as we go down the line. So we just got to keep adding guys that can create competition, and someday they may be starters. Some of them more quickly than others, but you're always balancing that out. And every draft, it's similar that way especially when you have I wouldn't say we have an old team. I think we got a team with a lot of players in their prime. And there's some young ones, and these guys will push them, and that's good. And how quick they contribute, that's up to them. Coaches will give them the opportunities. The players they'll force their way into the lineups, because I'm sure if the coaches think they can help us win, they'll play.
One thought is, you're so close that go all in this year, but that's not your philosophy.
When we go all in every year. But every year, we want to win a thing. We want to win it every year. So I'll never support mortgaging the future to sell out and win, because one critical injury can change that. And what have you done to your organization? Since I've been part of this thing, we've had one losing season, and that's one too many. But fortunately, we got a franchise Hall of Fame quarterback that year. But if that wasn't, if those quarterbacks, there's probably 3 Hall of Famers that came out of that class, and that was a unique class. But if that wasn't the case, who knows what would have happened? Because obviously, without Ben, we're probably not winning as many Super Bowls as we've been able to. So every year it's a different challenge. This is the challenge, 2018, to win the Super Bowl. But again, we're never going to lose sight of making sure we can compete each and every year.
And I think it's worth noting also that, we believe that these guys not only can help us in the future, but these guys are also capable of helping us this year if they earn it. And we don't discount any contributions or make any assumptions regarding division of labor or roles. These guys will be given an opportunity to carve out roles for themselves this year. And if they do and it's significant, great. If they don't, we got quality people that are working and they're in an environment that's conducive to them growing. We sat in here a year ago last year and speculated that maybe Juju was quote unquote a luxury pick, that it wasn't necessarily a driving need there. That guy made a lot of football plays for us in 2017. So I didn't want to miss that statement or miss that point. We like these men. We believe these guys are capable of helping us win in 18 and beyond.
Did you all figure that if you did not trade up from 79 to 76, that Mesa would not be there for you at 79?
We didn't want to take that risk. The move was minimal. We had two sevens. To use one of those, we felt it was worth the risk because, again, Mason Rudolph was somebody that we valued as much as the rest of those quarterbacks that were drafted. And when he was available to us, okay, let's give up that seventh to make sure we get him.
Kevin, you said
Final question.
You don't think you don't look at the team as an older team, but do you have in the back of your head that you do have some guys who are 30 or approaching 30 at some very important positions on your team?
I'm sure there are. Of course, Ben is. Beyond that, the rest of them they're right in their primes. I mean, I don't know what our average age is. I think we're right in the middle of that group if we, study those types of things. But look, the quarterback is, and that's fine because it is what it is. And whatever time we got left with Ben, great. We'll try to make the most of it. But as we move forward, I don't think we have an old team. I think we added a lot of guys that are in their prime. We always talk about progression rather than regression. I'm confident in saying we don't have a lot of players in regression. I think we got a lot of players in their prime, and I know we got a lot of players that are progressing. And I'm excited to see where they can go next year and what this group can do to not only push them, but maybe compete with them and help us win.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you.